Hey guys, welcome to part 11 in the create a WhatsApp web clone with Appwrite and Vue. In this video, we're going to actually be rendering out the messages that we receive in real time as well as the history. So this is a really significant part because this is actually when the major functionality of WhatsApp will start shining through, and that would be sending messages. Okay, fine. So let's jump right into things. The first thing I just want to do is something that I noticed is that when I click on one of the groups, so like the sidebar becomes a little bit smaller, which is a little bit annoying. So I'm just going to go to our sidebar component, and instead of width, we're just going to say min width of 350 pixels, and that way it will always be that width, which is what I want. And let's just test that. Okay, cool. Moving on, just close off these tabs. Okay, so when we go to our chat view component, essentially we're going to need to get our messages for the group and then pass them through to the chat history component. So let's do that right now. So we're going to want the message store. Const message store is equal to use message store. Then we're going to say const messages is equal to computed from view, and we're going to say const group ID is equal to group store dot current group dot ID, and if there is no group ID yet, so we're just going to return a empty array. Otherwise, we're going to return the message store dot messages for group and then the group ID. Cool. And then we're going to take this messages and just pass it through to the chat history component. Say messages is equal to messages. Cool. Now in our chat history component, we actually have to set up the props. So in our chat history, we'll say interface props, and we will receive messages, which is going to be an array of the message model interface. And let's just define the props. Cool. Now, for each one of these messages, we're going to want to render out a message component. So let's create a new component called message.view, and it's going to be a template, and we'll just do script setup lang equals ts. And all this message is going to accept is the single message. So interface props, we're going to have a message, which is a single message model, and define props, and we're just going to assign this to props since we're going to need to use the message. Now, the next thing we want to do is check if the current user is the owner of, or rather the person who sent this message. So let's just say const session is equal to ref of models. Let's just import the ref from view dot models dot session, or undefined, and on our onMounted hook, let's import that. In our onMounted hook, all we want to say is that get the current session. So this is going to be an async hook, and the session dot value is equal to await account, which comes from Appwrite dot get session current. Cool. Now that we have a session, we're going to render out our message component. Actually, before that, what we need to do is just say const is owner is equal to computed. I don't know why occasionally the auto import breaks, which is a bit annoying, but moving on, computed, and we're going to return the session.value.userID is equal to props.message.userID. So if these two things are equal, then we know that the current user is the person who sent this message. And we're going to do some conditional rendering. We're going to move it to the right side of the screen. We're also going to change the background color. But first, let's go to our chat history. And we're just going to say that for each of these messages, so message, and then we're going to say v4 equals message in messages. We're going to pass through a prop of message. Cool. So if you go into our message component again, let's actually just create that functionality, or rather the UI for it. So we're going to have a div, which is going to have a class of width, full, and flex. Now, we're going to also have a conditional class where we say if the current user is the owner, then we want to justify end. Otherwise, we want to justify start. Cool. And inside here, we're going to create this is just the container for the message component. In here is where we're actually going to have the message. So we're going to have a div. We're going to say class equals px of 2, py of 1. It's going to be rounded large, small text, a max width of 50%, and then a min width of 100 pixels. And then we're also going to have conditional class on this. We're going to say if is owner, then we want the color to be BG custom chat owner message. Otherwise, it's going to be BG white. BG white. Cool. Now inside this message component, we're going to want to put the person's email, meaning the person who sent it. So class equals text extra small, and then text gray 500, and the message.email. And then underneath that, we're going to want to have the actual message contents. So let's just do message.contents. Okay, cool. And with that, I think the one last thing that we're going to need to do is that when I click on a chat item, so we're going to have on chat selected, and this is where we want to load all the messages for this group. So we left the to do here, so let's get rid of that. And we're going to say message store. So let's get the message store is equal to use message store, and we're going to say the message store dot get messages for chat.id, and that will pull the list of messages from Appwrite. And with that done, let's take a look at what we have now. So if I refresh this page and I click here, you can see we now have the 4 messages that I sent. So if I say test and send it, you can see it showed up over here, just like that, instantaneously. So something to see if it's working properly. If we go to our Appwrite database and we go to our authentication tab, so we have test1@gmail.com. So we're going to go to test1@gmail.com and update their password. And if you don't have another user, just create another user by inviting in fact, let's just do this whole thing from scratch. Let's go to create a new group. We're going to create a new group called showcase. This is going to be showcase@gmail.com is who we want to invite. Let's go to next. The group name will be called showcase, and we're going to click on the check mark icon. So now we have showcase. Cool. So if I click on showcase, we'll see there are no messages here yet. And if I go to my authentication tab, you could see that if I refresh, we now have a new user called showcase@gmail.com. So let's click on that user and update their password to something that we know. So we're going to do ABCD1234 and update. And Chrome is going to warn us, but I don't care. Okay, so now that we have that, what we're going to do is open up a new incognito tab and paste in our app URL. And I'll just break this off side to side. So that's one side, and that's the other side. Cool. And let's log in as showcase@gmail.com, and the password abcd1234. Log in. And you can see that we now are a member of this group in both tabs. So what we're going to try to do is send a message. Hello. And it did not show up here. Let's try refreshing it first of all. So we have hello, and you can see that it's white, but let's try this again. Test 2. So you can see that this time it did show up on this side, and there's probably just a refresh issue. But we can actually message back and say, hello from Showcase. And you can see it showed up as the green over here, and it showed up on white on this side. This is really cool. I mean, we now have a real-time chat app up and running with quite minimal effort, to be honest. So that's really cool, and I mean that makes this video a lot shorter than I intended, but we've really reached a good closing point for this specific video. In future videos, we're going to be talking about how would we deploy this to production. What's cool about Appwrite is that they have a one-click install to DigitalOcean. You can see over here, well, they changed their banner over here, but if I look Appwrite DigitalOcean, you'll see that we have a one-click app which will allow us to deploy it, as they say over here, in one click. Just create Appwrite Droplet, which is really cool. We're also going to be continuing and basically adding functionality for deleting a message, and we want to have the admin to be able to delete a message. After that, we also want to make sure that if we change the account information, like we change the user's email, so we want to make sure that it updates in all of these places. So there is some more work left to do. But in terms of a basic WhatsApp clone, I mean, this is quite functional. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, not really final episode, but it's a good, like I said before, a good closing point for the, let's call it the core part of the WhatsApp web clone. And we're going to be continuing on from here. We're probably going to even get to the point where we're going to create the video call functionality using WebRTC. We're going to be recreating statuses, maybe. We'll see if that's useful. But really, I want you guys to weigh in the comments and just say what you'd like to see. I know that deleting is probably high up on the list. Maybe you want read receipts to see when another person has read your message. Other than that, I'm probably going to do a pass through this whole thing and look for some more bugs, see if there's any more bugs, or if you guys see any, leave them in the comments, and I'll make another video with just some cleanup over here for some things like I said before, the email updating and different things like that. But thank you guys for starting this journey, and I hope to see you in all the future episodes of the WhatsApp clone series. Just as another point, I'm probably going to be creating a few more series. One of them is probably going to be creating a software as a service from scratch, where we're going to be creating, I haven't decided on what project I want to create. Maybe a screenshot editor or something else. I haven't given it so much thought yet, but if you guys have any requests in terms of what you'd like to recreate, let me know down below in the comments, or if you want to see another clone video where we clone a different product, I'd love to do that. So I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope you enjoyed it this far. Alright, have a good one. Bye-bye.